Today I'm going to be taking a look at one of my favorite builds for one of my formerly favorite frames. Some frames I like a little bit more now. But this is Nekros. He's really cool. I just want to preface this by saying this isn't like the single best build in the entire game. Every video says that, oh, this is the best Nekros build. Oh, this is the best Ember build. It's fun. It's comfy, it will work, and it's different. It's chill. We'll start off with the shards. We have one cast speed because you really need that for Terrify and Shadows of the Dead. And then we have 4 HP regen shards. This is kind of like an HP tank build. Very interesting. So we are using 3 Umbral mods. I know a lot of people prefer to swap out the Umbral mods for health conversion, which is smart, but I am needing it for the armor reduction. So if you were to swap this off with health conversion, you would have to change the aura. I like having the 3 HP regen per second because, again, it's kind of like a health tank. So because of the shards and because of this aura, we have 23 HP regen per second, and then we also have 24 HP regen per second from Arcane Reaper. So it's essentially almost 50 HP regen per second, which is not like an insane amount. You could flex some stuff around, like switching Arcane Eruption with Arcane Blessing for more max HP or whatever, but I find that I don't need that. Let's start off with some of the augments. Shield of Shadows. This is not affected by any of your HP regen except for rejuvenation. You could also min-max this build by changing your weapons to kit guns, because the kit gun arcanes, Jesus fucking Christ, of course it's all the way at the bottom. The kit gun arcanes, these actually snapshot the bonus. So see how this one is a toxic? If you get a toxic primary and then you get a cold secondary, you can snapshot viral onto your summon dudes. Sorry, I just had to swap some stuff around. So that's pretty cool. So the rejuvenation only helps them, and it's negligible. You won't even notice it, really. Like, it is affecting them, but when they have thousands of health because it snapshots the enemy you killed, it's you're not gonna notice it. Despoil, because again, we have so much HP regen, and even without any HP regen, you won't really notice the deficit from this anyway, just because of equilibrium and how Nekros works with his loot dog ability. And then we're using Desiccation's Curse. This is an interesting one because it allows us to set up for finishers, which is just good to focus a specific target for Shield of Shadows. Not too big a deal, but it's a little bit of comfy. Also gives us HP, also gives us CC, and it lets us summon multiple. I believe the cap was 2 Sand Shadows, but I've got it up to 4. It's probably a glitch, and I reckon it is enemy dependent, because some enemies that I've tested in Simulacrum won't summon a Sand Shadow, but they're like enemies that you will literally never see, like the rock golems. But even then, sometimes it does work on them and sometimes it doesn't, so I don't know what the fuck is going on. It's something. But yeah, this does true damage, which is like, eh. And part of something that I like about this build, this is future-proof for a long while. This is going to work even with the upcoming shield gate changes, especially because they're going to be making finisher attacks deal true damage. Right now, I thought they did true damage, but apparently not. Apparently, the finisher attacks will be a lot better come the update, which is going to dramatically boost this. Now, one thing I'm going to mention right up front, you could make a better finisher melee than what I have, but I like the Inadem because sprint speed. It does have a finisher damage bonus to it, and then these just help it get to incarnate mode faster. And I do have a Riven for it, of course. Of course I have a Riven for it. You could get a better Riven for it, maybe one with finisher damage, and you could put finisher damage mods on this that make it a little bit better, aside from covert lethality. Additionally, you could swap out Condition Overload with a Primed Pressure Point if you're not priming, but you should be priming. And because companions are getting a buff, my companion is always priming. It's priming Electric, Gas, Puncture, and Impact. All of those, all of them. And because it's Digigen, it pretty much just doesn't die. We have Reawakening, so it respawns. And I don't know why I have Coolant Leak on there, actually. That should not be there. That's embarrassing. Embarrassing. I don't know why that's there. Probably because I chose the wrong build. How about that? We also have Mediray, I forgot to mention, on the pet. We have Mediray on the pet, so that is even more healing, 12%. So we're getting a lot of HP regeneration. We're getting a significant amount from like the entire encompassing build. Again, these two, you just kind of want a primer. We'll see why in a second. And primary, just anything that does damage. Anything that does damage, right? And then we're using prime continuity for more duration. This does affect the sand shadows as well, which has some interesting effects. And then we're using Arcane Reaper for more HP regen, as we saw. And this is getting us to the decent armor value. Umbral Fiber doesn't actually give us very much armor because it's multiplying our base armor, which is pretty low. So it goes from 29 to, I think it's about 50. Yeah, 53%, which is not much. So the 600 from this is pretty much, that's getting us to a very, very comfortable level of armor. Arcane Eruption, because energy pickups will knock down stuff. In case you're unaware, we're going to be picking up a lot of energy because we're Necros, baby. So let's see what kind of enemies I have. So these are the Manic Bombards. These are one of the strongest enemies in the game. These are supposed to be the Grenier Super Soldiers, basically. I am also using Primed Surefooted. A lot of people say, you don't need Primed Surefooted on Necros because your shield summons will take the stagger. You haven't been playing this game for very long, and if you have, you haven't done very much Steel Path. My friend, on Necros, you start the mission. Look, I'm pushing 4. I can't summon stuff. You can get one-hit KO'd without your shield shadows. That's the pretty much only requirement of this build, is that you just have to have your shield shadows up. They also have a max range, so say you're moving throughout the level, which a lot of people are moving in a very mobile fucking game, your shadows won't follow you. They will leave you behind. It's 50 meters, which is basically, boom, that was 50 meters. Probably. This is 50 meters. So it's 1, 2, and a roll. Which usually when people are optimally moving right, they're going like that. So you will very quickly lose where they are. And you can't summon them. So typically, I like to prime it first, then hit him with a spa, and then I can stab him. Whoop, hit the wrong one. Which, usually, that will kill them. That will almost always kill them. And summon the Sand Shadow. But these Manic Bombards, again, these are one of the toughest enemies in the game. Let's just really make sure he's good and primed. It is summoning. A lot of times it doesn't summon for the Manic Bombards, but they are very, very powerful. And now we can summon some dudes. Now, one thing that's interesting is that, say I kill someone, summon a Sand Shadow, and then I summon my clones. It will allow you to kill one enemy and summon one clone, or one shadow, which is pretty great for beginning of level. Beginning of missions, it has a very great startup because you can immediately get mitigation. One thing I like about the Desecrate Sand Shadows is that it is 100% mitigation. A lot of people talk about adaptation's great because you get 90% at a certain point, which adaptation is great, rolling guard's great, but the thing with rolling guard and summoning shadows is that if they're taking the damage for you, that is 100% mitigation. That is far better than adaptation. That is far better than a lot of mods in this game. That's far better than Umbral Vitality, right? A lot better. A lot better. Which again, if you swapped out Umbral Vitality, you could put in some strength in this build, maybe get a strength shard, and then you wouldn't have to worry about that, and you could swap adaptation or something in there. But I like to have the Mimi very fast HP regen. Of course, too, if a lot of people want their shadows to do a lot of damage, you don't need your shadows to do a lot of damage. You really, really don't. As long as you have any Incarnate weapon or any Kuva weapon, you don't need them to, because this isn't even without this isn't with me using the armor strip and I just melt everything, right? Absolutely shred everything, and that's before that or anything else. So that's kind of the long and short of the build. It's a little memey, but it works sufficiently well, and it scales sufficiently well. I am using Zenuric, again, just because I want to have a quick start, but there are better choices, I'm not going to lie. If you're trying to do a level cap with this, you would need something like Vazarin's Guardian Shell, which gives you an invulnerability bubble. It also gives you Protective Sling, which is more protection for you. Or you could use Matter Eye for more strength, because this will give the, it's somewhere on here, but it gives strength to your summons, which is very useful. It's also good because with this, I forget which ability it is. One of these schools, you can use up all your powers, right? And then you get a huge damage boost, especially if you're using the right operator arcanes, which can be good for killing like Thrax and whatnot. So that's pretty much the long and short of the build. Make sure you have your shadows up. That is the main thing. That goes for any Necros build. Any Necros build that uses these shadows, you have to make sure your shadows are up. Absolutely 1000%. So now I'm going to leave the simulacrum, and we're going to do a quick mission, probably 10 minutes or so. And I'm going to show you the build firsthand. I have done several hour missions with this Necros, but again, health and armor only scale so far. It's not really meant for level caps. It can do level caps. You can make an Aros do level cap, but it's going to take some finagling, as they say. Now, one of the conclusions or one of the things that brought me to this conclusion of this build is I am a day one Warframe player. Back in my day, when Warframe came to PlayStation, you could only you could only cast by using your touchpad. Only cast by using your touchpad, and additionally, Desecrate was not a toggleable ability, so you had to constantly roll around doing this. This was Necros gameplay. This was Necros gameplay. And on top of that, you also had to follow around the Trinity. Well, I guess you didn't really have to follow her around, because at the time, Trinity's thing was just like, make everyone invincible. It was insane. It kind of gave me PTSD, so I want my Necros to be as comfy as humanly possible because of how stressful he was to play for years and years. On top of that, back in the days, it was more squad orientated. You usually needed an Ember. You had to have a Trinity. Absolutely, you had to have a Trinity. And then you'd need a Necros. And then the last one could be any CC frame. It could be Loki. It could be a Nyx. Could be really whoever. It could be Banshee, right? But now people don't really give a shit about squads as much, unless you're doing like arena steel path farming or what have you. But there's always exceptions, right? But back then I played an insane amount of Necros, because if you wanted to find a mission quick, I'm a loot dog. Necros was people don't. I don't ever see people describe Necros as loot dog anymore. They call him loot god, I guess, but. He was a loot dog because he was basically on a leash tied to your squad, running around and desecrating. That was Necros gameplay. It was just desecrating all fucking day, and you had to use the touchpad. It was a nightmare. So that got me PTSD. I need therapy because I played a video game. No, I'm just playing. But so I like my Necroses to be as chill bro as possible. Now, you probably won't be able to see my health tanking too much because I have Overguard from Frost, but you can take a wallop, especially once you get your armor buff from killing stuff. Especially. But it's not really the most like groundbreaking build ever, but it doesn't need to be. I feel like a lot of times there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. With Necros, the main thing is being consistent. You need to be a consistent looter. Now, he could even be a better looter if you put on Atlas's ability, Petrify, and you slap on the Orgaze augment. You could also be using the Ripkas with their Amalga Ripka's augment, which allows you to get more gore, which more gore means more loot because you're looting more body parts. So it could be a better looter, but I do a lot of arena endo farming, and dying in arena as the Necros could mean the difference between 2,000 endo and 3,500 endo. If you have a min-maxed endo farming group, the highest I've ever seen from one round was like, I think it was 3.9k endo from one like 3-minute round of arena farming. And that's with like a min-max group. That's 2 Necroses, me with, or no, one of them with Orgaze, one of them with Larval, and then we had a min duration Korra, and I can't remember if I was a Lootroid or if I was a max duration Ivara. It was something along those lines, but it was like a min-max team comp for endo farming. But regardless, because you don't have like a lot of the stuff you normally have in Arena, it's very easy to die, especially because like there's fucking enemies that flashbang you, which is annoying as all get out. And it just the HP regen pretty much ensures that you're not gonna die because there's so much of it, which is nice because again, dying in the arena can be the difference between like 1,000 endo, especially if you're the Necros. So this build kind of takes that into account. Now, a lot of people want a summoner build Necros. That's his niche. This is your summoner build Necros because you're summoning the extra sand shadows. But the thing is, you could also use specters. You could use air support charges. I only ever really use the on-call guy because he disappears. I feel that having all the specters clutters up the screen too much, and ever since they've added it, I've always felt like this is not balanced. This should be removed because you can summon so many guys that it trivializes almost all content, because again, if they're shooting at you, that's 100%, or if they're shooting at someone else, that's 100% damage mitigation. That's much more than adaptation will ever be, right? A lot more. The 90% is misleading because it's also only one damage type. So, this build is kind of future-proof for if they do ever go back and touch that, which they should, because PS4, Xbox One, Switch, they can't handle a million summons on screen. And one of the things that I used to do you know how sometimes you have to do the interception matches for Steel Path to get through them? Well, what you can do to cheese your way through any Steel Path interception mission is you can summon a bunch of allies, right? Have a bunch of allies stationed at 2 different points, and then you control 2 different points. That will ensure that you have the entire map covered, easy schmeezy, super brain dead easy. It trivializes any content in the game. Absolutely trivializes any content. And I think that like there's nothing wrong with trivializing content, or inherently wrong, I should say. There's nothing objectively wrong or whatever semantics you want to use about making stuff easy, because sometimes it being easy is fun, but there's limits, right? Like Ember World on Fire. You could literally just push 4 and walk around and everything in the entire map was getting nuked. That was a bit of a problem. It was exceedingly fun. I think Ember is a worse frame now because of her changes, but she's significantly more fun and interesting to play. She requires a little bit of a brain now, which is why not many people play her. Shout out to all my Ember mains out there. She's a very fun frame. I love her now. I think she's a lot more fun to play. I didn't like playing her before, even though she was insanely strong. But some people like that insanely strongness, and I understand that, but it's part of it is the technical limitations of the game, and the amount of specters you have really limits that. Part of it too is that a lot of specters, these ones are bad examples, but a lot of specters you can't go through. See, I'm going to summon the Sand Shadow. I can't go through him, right? Well, this hitbox is kind of funky, but I can't go through my Sand Specters. If I Sand Spectre a bigger enemy, you'll see. But there's a lot of specters you can't go through. I believe the call ones you can't go through. I don't want to summon them because they're annoying. But I felt like ever since they added it, it was dated, especially back in the day. They're obviously useful, but it's just there's so much clutter on screen, and a lot of people I saw in forums saying that the changes to visual stuff that we're getting on the 18th will help that because you can outline allies and whatnot. But if you have, say, your 10 shadow summons, which A lot of people are like, oh, you can only get 7. No, you can get more than 7. You can get 10 because sometimes the enemy you killed will summon other enemies, right? Like if you kill a dog handler, Grenier, they're gonna summon dogs, and then all of a sudden you have like 12 summons just from your shadows. That's not even including your Sandy boy. You can have so many dudes on screen that even having an outline on them will not do anything. Your screen is just going to be covered in visual vomit, and that's one thing I don't like, especially when people use very, very bright colors for the Necros. I don't think a lot of people realize that you can have bright colors for one and then a not bright color for the other. As you can see, I have my tendrils are bright, which is annoying for other players, not really me. And that's because if I made both of them dark black to make them like not visually vomiting, I wouldn't be able to easily tell when they're out of range for me, because as long as I can see those tethers, I know they're in range for me. But if I don't see the tethers, I know it's time to boot, scoot, and boogie summon one or whatever. So I do think that specters need adjustments. I don't think they should be taken out of the game. I think they should be limited. I like that they added in the Archon hunts, they are limited. I think that's just how they should be in general. I think they should all work like the crew members, where there's a limit on them. You can't just keep summoning them over and over, because a lot of the specters you can literally just keep summoning over. If they die after like 20 minutes, you can just keep summoning them, and they don't have a timer on them. Once you summon them, they will just stay until they die, which if you're corner camping with a squad, a lot of times they could last several hours, which is insane. I've made shorts about it before too. If you have multiple Necroses in a hallway and you're all summoning shit and you all have summoning builds, which a lot of people act like, oh, well, that never happened. As someone who mained Necros for years and years, it happened a lot. It happened a lot more than you think. Necros is a common trait, right? You see them in a lot of matches. It's not uncommon to see multiple Necroses or have squads run 2 Necroses on purpose. But it's because I have Overguard from the Frost that's on our team, you're not really seeing the health tanking, but it tanks pretty well. Some things can still kill you though, but the biggest thing is like if you have your shadows up, you're usually fine. Sometimes the Dominic's Thrax or whatever, or Mania or what have you, sometimes these guys can kill you, but it's almost always when you don't have a shadow up. That's pretty much it. And when I'm fighting the like tough enemies or whatever, I try to like spam my pocket sand because it is healing and CC. So it's a great accoutrement to build. Again, a lot of people use Gloom on Necros, but I don't like Gloom for several reasons. One, because I like, even though I was just harping on like summoning a million allies, I do like summoning stuff. I just think that there should be limits to it. I think the ability summoning is fine because you're using an augment for that, whereas I can just summon like tons of this shit for completely free. Like, oh yeah, well you spent 3 polymer on it. Like, who gives a fuck, dude? I have millions of it because I play Necros. Who gives a fuck? And again, I want to go back to the point of you can make summoner focused builds where it's meant so that your summons do damage, which is viable and works. Basically AFK builds, but I don't like that because it's not fun for me to just play AFK mobile arena on PlayStation, right? A lot of people like that AFK shit. I don't. I don't see the point in it. Like, even just aiming and pushing R2 with the Torrid and having your beam melt everything, that's more engaging than just playing AFK cookie cutter, in my opinion. If you like that, that's fine, but I just I'd rather do anything else. So that's pretty much the long and short of the build. Again, I know this isn't gonna break new ground or change anyone's way of thinking, but I really love the HP regen shards because of how comfy they can make builds. And with the HP change or the shield gate changes coming up, who knows? Maybe we'll eventually see some health changes. I would like for more variety of builds to become a thing, which seems like they're on the path to. But health and armor only scale so far, which is a problem. Whereas shield gating scales infinitely. Scales completely infinitely. Right? So I think that I'm sure eventually they will take a look at that. I'm positive they will. But for now, not so much. But again, as long as you have your shadows up, you're almost always fine. But if your shadows go down, it can be a quick ticket to Death City. But these Dominus guys are like, I don't even have to worry about like Mania or the Acolytes really. It's pretty much just these Thrax guys, which are not in very many missions at all. Like, see, that's the summon guys, even my own guys, sometimes I shoot, not realizing that it's one of my guys. Again, the readability hopefully will fix that, but it's Warframe, right? It might not. There's a lot of, especially at launch, there's a lot of times in Warframe where people always act like every new patch with all this shit is gonna work perfectly, and they're like, oh my god, I can't believe how buggy this is! Like, what did you expect? Are you new? Like, have you been here? That's like when Deviri came out. I didn't play Deviri. I did the initial playthrough, and I got like some of the Incarnate weapons, but I pretty much did not play it at all, aside from a few occasions for like months and months, because it was so unbelievably buggy. It's fine now. There's still some bugs in it, but a lot of content at launch in Warframe is usually buggy. The Zerman was pretty bug-free, surprisingly. Like even New War had a bunch of bugs. So it's one of those things where people are expecting the next patch to, be the best patch ever, which it looks like it will be. I'll give you that. It looks like it will be. It looks like it's going to be an amazing patch, especially because I love the companions. I've been wanting a companion rework since like 2012, since the game came out. So, I didn't have my thing up. So this has been a long time coming, but don't get your hopes up. The companion rework will probably be fine, but a lot of the other things that people think will fix the game, probably not so much. I foresee there will be some bugs, which I make sure you farm open world syndicate stuff, Cephalon Samaris syndicate stuff. There are 3 open world syndicates, well over that, but because there's going to be at least 14 new pet mods, and so a lot of them are going to be at syndicates. So make sure you farm that now, because we're going to have to be farm them at some point, and because the nature of Warframe, and like I said, how a lot of the time the patches are buggy, there's probably going to be 1 or 2 mods that are obscenely broken, obscenely strong. Spare Parts is a really good mod right now that allows you to focus farm rare materials, but it looks like it's going to be a mini Necros coming up soon, where it allows you to tag enemies and it has a chance to drop extra loot. So stuff like that on the Shemitah or what have you, some stuff could be insanely strong. Apparently they will nerf the Shemitah, they said, possibly. For now they won't, but this could be something. So get ready for potential super broken OP mods because of the nature of Warframe updates being buggy. Kind of like how way back in the day there was a bug where you could have a negative strength Nidus and you could tether someone and it would give them like literally the highest, like higher than you could attain strength, and it would make them ungodly, like crazy amounts of strong. So who knows, maybe we'll get something like that. Probably not, but get ready for it. And that being said, no matter what changes are to come, this build is future-proofed as far as I'm concerned. You could swap out some parts, maybe add strength, maybe remove umbral fiber, and then add some other stuff. But it doesn't need to. The health regen makes it super comfy for pretty much all levels of content. But if you're going to go for, level cap with your Necros, I would probably swap out some mods. But most people aren't doing level caps, as I've said like 40 times. So it'll be very nice. And you don't really notice it. You could probably swap off Arcane Eruption. But Arcane Eruption is just a nice little amount of CC for you bitch ass. As you can see right now, my health goes up super fast. But again, these Dominus Thrax, whatever the hell they're called, they're the literal only issues. And if I had, I think it's Matter Eye, I could kill them a lot more efficiently, but because you can zap all your energy and then have the damage arcanes function. But that's pretty much the long and short of it. I'm gonna dip out now once I kill this guy. But that being said, Nekros is a fun frame, and I think he's best played when he's comfy. I still have PTSD from when every single Nekros match was doing this for hours and hours. So I like when he's comfy. Ooh, that was a big hit. That was a big hit. But as long as I have my shields up, pretty much nothing can kill me. And we also get more energy, or more armor and regen when we melee stuff. So our health will always go back up, like, almost immediately. Especially because we're also Necros and we're dropping orbs and stuff. So it's very nice to not have to, like, I shield gate build on most of my frames, and it's very nice to not have to be like, oh shit, I shield gated, I have to immediately cast. Like, it is fun a lot of times to have that, but sometimes I don't want to constantly be babysitting the blue bar. You know what I'm saying? I like being able to take a few hits. And this build can usually go like about an hour before I really have to worry about that, aside from like those Dominus Thrax and maybe the odd Alkalite. Those I gotta use my brain a little bit, but for the most part it's a very chill, comfortable build. So let me know what you think. Let me know how much you hated your build and how much better your build is. That's always great to see. But I hope if you enjoyed this, the only way you can let me know is to go to your local library and see if they have any good movies you could rent out